Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ episode number 3, where I answer your knife questions both big and small. This week, we've got a few topics to cover, such as cheap axis lock alternatives, some fidget-friendly knives, as well as some mini knives, and a few more things. Let's do it. All right, our first question, first two questions actually, come from the same person. Mr. Hoog Vals, and I'm going to read both questions because I think I've got one knife that's going to answer both of your requests. Says, my question, can you suggest some inexpensive budget folder with the axis lock? I can't afford those Benchmade masterpieces yet. And his second question, from someone who sees so many cool blades, what is the most fidget-friendly folding knife? Probably an axis lock non-assisted. I think that's an amazing question, or an interesting question. You could show a bunch of them. I'm going to show two, but the first one I think is going to answer both of your questions. For an inexpensive crossbar locking knife, the SOG Terminus XR. There's a few different versions starting at 55 bucks. This particular one is a little bit more expensive, but still pretty darn affordable at 85. And this one has some upgraded materials such as the carbon fiber overlay here and S35 VN blade steel. So you get a lot of performance for that 85 bucks. Even though it's more, or even though you can get a D2 version for 55, the 85 is still a pretty good bargain. And so yeah, they're fantastic. They do a really good job with these. Blade length on these is just under 3 inches, so it's easy to carry all over the place, even if you've got blade length restrictions to worry about. Deep carry pocket clip, it does have some SOG lettering on there. Some people, it is a turnoff for some, and I get that, but at least this version is black, so it doesn't stand out as much. And this answers your second question too, in terms of fidget-friendly folding knives. In terms of the crossbar locks out there, or the folks who make crossbar locks out there, SOGs really do offer the most options out there for the fidgeters out there, and I get it. Any axis lock or crossbar lock, you're going to be able to flick open and close. Pardon my little mess up there. You've always got that going on with any of them when you hold that lock bar back, and that's just a lot of fun. Believe me, it'll piss off your wife or girlfriend if you do it too much. I don't know that from experience. But the SOGs also offer two other things for the fidgeters out there. You've got a flipper tab, and the flipper on these is quite good. We've actually done a few videos on this recently, and as I've said in those, it's not quite as crisp as the best titanium frame locks out there, but it's still got a really good detent. Benchmade has done some flipper axis lock versions before, and they've not felt quite as crisp as SOG has managed to get there. So that's one thing I've always appreciated about their XR lock, which is their version of the axis lock. And in addition to that, you've also got thumb studs. So you've got 3 different ways to open the knife, and of course you can close it quick or close it slow. Very fidget friendly. In addition to that, I've got another knife which I think is, right now at least for me, the most fidget friendly knife we've got in the building. At least it's the most fidget friendly one I can think of, and it's our new small Archeo exclusive from Artisan Cutlery, and this is a non-locking knife. Non-locking knives usually aren't fidget friendly, but this one actually really is, because you can flick it closed, because this is one of those double detent style of non-lockers. It's not a traditional slip joint, but it also flips open quite nicely. Flipping open and closed, open and closed. Also sure not to drive your office mates crazy when you do that all the time either. But apart from that, it's just a great everyday carry blade too. You got your sub 3-inch blade of VG10 Damascus, so it looks good and still performs pretty well. Although the S35 VN on that SOG will probably hold an edge longer, or definitely should hold an edge longer. But you still got a good steel in that VG10 base Damascus. Cool orange and black G10 that isn't super shouty. I've said this kind of reminds me a little bit of like a synthetic ironwood, a desert ironwood type of look, so it's pretty cool. And on top of that, some classy blue accents. And if you really want some more security, you even got that metal pin that's going to keep the blade from closing. It's not a fixed blade in that case, but it's not really a locking knife either. It's literally a stop pin inserted behind it, and it works when you close the knife too, or when the knife is closed. You can actually lock it in that closed position as well. Now, if you're worried about the safety, even without using the lock, if you're worried about the safety while using the knife, there are some nice things about the way this design comes together, where you're not going to have to worry too much about the blade closing inadvertently. For one thing, you've got this modified Warncliffe shape, so even if you're piercing, the force on the blade is not going down in the direction that could bust the detent or break past the detent. But you've also got this nice flipper tab that, in addition to keeping your fingers from moving forward, if the knife does disengage, it's going to keep the blade from closing any further. So it's just a really, really cool design, and yes, very fidget friendly. All right, our next question comes from Mr. I'm assuming Mr. Comes from 3301. It says, I'm looking for a more budget-friendly option of a folding knife. Doesn't have to be rust-proof, just hard to beat to be used for outdoor stuff. And when the words budget-friendly outdoor in terms of folding knife come into play, the Ontario Rat one is always the first thing I reach for. I mean, it's just such a solid design. You can get it in AUS 8, which is stainless, or D2, which gives you more edge retention at the expense of the corrosion resistance. D2, of course, is a semi-stainless steel. But you've got a nice, comfortable handle with this synthetic material. It's a glass-reinforced nylon. Doesn't bite into your hand too much. Fantastic all-around blade shape for camping, hunting, food prep, a little bit of bushcraft with that nice full flat grind there. And the finger guard here as well, that's going to keep your fingers from moving forward too much onto the edge. And of course, the Rat, designed by the folks behind Essie Knives, used to be Rat Cutlery. But since this is always the obvious answer, I'll still give it to you. Oh, and they're cheap too. This one right here is like 33 bucks, I think. But we've got versions, this is 32 bucks. We've got versions as low as 23 right now on a full-size Rat 1 with a foliage green GRN handle. That's on a crazy special price right now, so we'll make sure to leave links to that below as well. But like I said, since that's the obvious answer, I wanted to give something a little bit different. This is the Essie Avispa. Same designers actually behind both of these two knives, so you can definitely see some family resemblance there. And the reason I picked this one is because of the line you mentioned of not having to be stainless. This particular version, like the Rat 1, you can get it in AUS 8 or D2, but this particular one I'm holding here comes with SK5 carbon steel, which it's not going to hold an edge like D2, but this is going to be a very, very tough blade. And if you're out there beating on a knife in the field and you do know how to sharpen, toughness is honestly going to be a more desirable characteristic in many cases, not necessarily everyone, but in many cases that's going to be more desirable than actual outright edge retention. But it does have some similar qualities to that Rat 1, including the price, nice and low, 32 bucks on this. You get a frame lock instead of a liner lock and G10 on the front, so slightly more premium feel at the expense of a little bit of width in the handle, which on an outdoor folder I think is a good thing because you get a little more comfortable grip oftentimes with a thicker grip. So that's a little bit of a trade-off here. The blade drops a little more, so you'll be able to drill a little bit more intuitively with the tip of this knife. And even though this is not a stainless steel, we do have a stone-washed finish here, which is going to be a little less susceptible to rust than a bead-blasted finish or something like that. But you don't often see carbon steel or modern locking carbon steel knives, especially at this price point, with a frame lock and everything. So I've always thought it was really cool. So maybe that's something interesting for you to take a look at. All right, next question comes from Ska Nomad. He says, I've tried many treatments for the sharpened edge of my 1095 knives to prevent rust. What do you use at home and in the field? I'd say for in the field, honestly, I've never had to worry about my carbon steel knives rusting too much as long as you keep it clean. I haven't needed to so much. Some things you can do, you can treat your carbon steel blades with cider vinegar to kind of force a patina, but that's not going to make too much difference. It is going to help a little bit in terms of inhibiting rust since you're kind of pre-rusting the blade with that patina. But since you're talking specifically about the sharpened edge of your knife, I'm assuming the blades that you have, these 1095 blades actually have a powder coating on the side, so you don't have to worry about rust there. So for the edge itself, for me, if it's ever rusted a little bit, the only thing you would usually have to do in the field is just strop the edge, and that's usually going to remove whatever surface rust has taken part or has set in there. If it's more than just surface rust and you've got really actual deep rust on the edge, you should have probably cleaned the knife better before you put it back in the sheath. That's actually a problem. So in the field, for me, you probably just have to strop it. At home or in storage might be a different story. So I have a couple things to show you here. The first thing being tuf-cloth. And actually you can get it in a nice pouch that's very field friendly. You can take that with you, and this is resealable. But I keep this one in a little screw top cap here at home. And essentially it's just a rag with mostly just mineral spirits in it. And it provides both some rust prevention as well as water displacement. So as soon as you clean the knife, you can give the edge itself of the knife a wipe down with this, and you're gonna have a little bit of a layer of protection from moisture and rust right there. Do it at home, do it in the field, works well either way. Another option for home, I do use that tuf-cloth a little bit on knives that are in my collection display. But for everyday uses, mineral oil is actually great stuff. I use it for more than just storing carbon steel blades. Works great as lubrication in a knife pivot. You can do stuff like treat cutting boards with it, or any other kind of wooden utensil. It's just great all around stuff. It works for all kinds of different things. It's nice and cheap. It's food safe, and you can get it just about anywhere, including here at the Knife Center. And one other kind of a outside of left field suggestion is one of these Exotac candle tins. It's a great survival kit item because you actually have a 100% beeswax candle. It's going to provide you some light and heat if you need it, including this nice tin. Once it's gone, it is a nice tin for some other things. But because it's made with 100% beeswax, you can do all kinds of stuff with that material too. You can prevent rust on your carbon steel tools. You can treat leather with it, waterproof your boots, that sort of stuff. Just some really cool all-around stuff. If you don't want it in the candle here, you can source some beeswax as well. But those candle tins are nice and cheap too. Some of the smaller ones are less than $8, and there's some larger ones at like $10.25, so they're really nice. All right, next question is from Gladius1. It says, Dave, I need lefty solutions so I can buy more knives. I feel your pain. Do you guys partner with or have a solution for someone who wants a handle drilled and tapped for a reversible pocket clip? That'd be pretty cool. It's not something we offer here, but yeah, I definitely feel your pain. Maybe someone will kind of pick up that ball and roll with it. Unfortunately for us, that would be a knife modification, and us as a retailer and dealer of all these brands, we don't engage in modification here. It's just not something that we will be able to offer. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I will say we do have a left-hand friendly section on our website. We'll leave a link to that below. In addition to dedicated left-hand models like Spyderco and Chris Reaver, known for putting those out fairly consistently, we also try to include anything there that's fully ambidextrous, like if it's completely symmetrical on the left and the right side, so that operation is exact mirror image for the left or the right hand. We try to get those in there as well. These crossbar locking knives are a great option for those because you got that great ambidextrous lock, and most of them have reversible pocket clips as well. All right, next question comes from Zambor Donko. Question, what is good about Tanto blades? Is there any task where they are the best? First of all, let's say Tanto or Tanto. I've kind of gotten in the habit of saying Tanto, and some people don't like that, some people do. I actually think that probably is a little more close to the traditional Eastern pronunciation, but I don't know. You can tell me I'm wrong in the comments, and I will give you a thumbs up or something. My answer to your question, I say, well, here's an example right here. I've got a Hogue EX03. Lots of tactical folks, at least the way I understand it, claim to like these because of tip strength when you're piercing, not necessarily piercing efficiency, but actual durability when engaging in some heavy stabbing. But that's not what I use them for. I'm an EDC guy. I've got no tactical training whatsoever. The thing for me is though, with this type of shape, which is a Western Tanto, I said it the different way there, Western style or Americanized Tanto, it actually has this very distinct point here where the traditional Japanese ones actually have a little bit more gradual slope there. A lot of American style Tantos these days can have some fairly thin and piercy, pointy tips. So for me, that tip strength doesn't always make sense to me, so I'm going to talk about this from an EDC perspective. And I'll say for me, I used to be pretty skeptical of Tantos myself until I carried one, a Hogue EX03, just like this knife, in fact. I did a review for it for a blog that I used to write for, which has since gone offline, unfortunately. But what I found, it wasn't as, I've always preferred a drop point, but I actually did find some nice uses for a Tanto blade in my everyday carry. First off, with that completely straight edge on this particular one, although you do have to watch out, some current or some newer Tanto versions have more of a little bit of a belly to that leading edge, but if it's completely flat like this, you can certainly use it for some scraping or chiseling types of tasks, removing stickers from something, I've heard people talking about, or even just some really finely controlled chisel-like cuts on wood or other things like that. It works really well. I also found a few nice uses for this secondary point right here, especially when opening boxes. When I try to open a cardboard box, I don't like to stick the knife down in through the flap. I always try to cut sideways so as to not cut anything in the box. And that actual point or secondary point on the blade there is really nice for riding that, that line of tape without going too deep into the box. As for other uses, I'll throw that to the comments section. Let us know what you guys like about Tantos, what you use them for day to day. These Hogues certainly are nice ones. We've got a polymer handle on these. Price is about $135, 154 cm steel, stone-washed finish, about 3.5 inches of length. I will say though, I think the G10 versions of this are a little more balanced in the hand, but they do cost a little bit more as well. All right, our final question for today comes from Dr. Cub2Lion. He asks, what 1 to 2 inch knives do you recommend? And there's a fair bit of knives out there that are nice, like the Case Peanut is always a fun one, the Spyderco Dragonfly, Kershaw Chive, lots of cool little knives. But what I wanted to show you today are actually some of those smaller knives that kind of think they're bigger knives or like to behave a little bit like bigger knives. Since you don't have a ton of blade length to work with, you want to get the most out of it you can, essentially. So the first one here is the Boker Subcom F. These come in a little bit under 45 bucks, and it's a short blade, under 2 inches, Aus 8 steel. And what's nice about this design, however, is you've got a nice broad, flat handle. And even though it's short, you know, as you all know, I've got slightly larger than average hands. This is kind of a 3-finger max handle length for me, but because it's so broad, I can still get a really solid grip on the knife. There's plenty there to hold on to, and that's gonna let you put the little blade you do have to work very nicely. And of course, you got a frame lock, holds things locked open quite well, opens nicely. You've got these thumb ramps here that let you open it. Multiple position pocket clip, really good carry, really good money clip as well, thanks to that wide nature, and affordably priced too. All right, next one I want to talk about is the Cold Steel Mini Tough Light. These come in about 30 bucks. Aus 8 steel again, but you've got this Wharncliffe style blade here. And what's nice here is you've got a 4-finger grip for all but the largest of hand sizes out there. So truly a full working grip on the knife. You can really put some muscle behind the edge on this little blade. It's also got a nice strong lock too. Not just an ordinary lock back. Cold Steel actually puts their full bore triad lock even on these inexpensive models. And it looks like a back lock, and it operates just like a back lock in terms of how you use it. But there's some stuff going on under the hood. There's a stop pin. They've changed the angles of some things in there so that it's far, far stronger and longer lasting. It's going to be self-adjusting over time than a standard lock back would be. So it's really cool. A few different colors that you can get on the handle. Single position pocket clip, fantastic little utility knife under 2 inches, or actually depending on where you measure it from, you might be able to get the tip to extend just past 2 inches, so just keep that in mind. All right, next up I've got a Spyderco. This is the Chicago, coming in about 58 bucks right now. Similar to that Tough Light, you've got a nice 50-50 finger choil, not quite 50-50, but you've got that finger choil around the pivot right there that acts as an additional bit of handle for you to hold on to. And this handle's kind of in between the previous two knives. It's 3.5 fingers long, but it's a little bit wider than the Tough Light, so you've got a good amount to hold onto there as well. A little bit of an upgrade in materials here. You've got G10 for the handles, as well as BD1N stainless steel, so you should get a little more edge retention than that Aus 8. And a nice little classy carry too, since you got that wire pocket clip, which is reversible for left or right. Whereas that Tough Light's has more of a working utility knife type of vibe. This is just a great small EDC for just about any environment. The open back helps you keep it clean more easily. Liner lock to hold things open. when you're using it. Just a solid all-around design, has all those great Spyderco things you love. All right, last but not least, going premium, going wild card a little bit here, Microtech Exo Set. These are more expensive and they are an OTF automatic, but the blade is under 2 inches and they come in about $250 right now. Now they market this as a money clip design, so similar to that Boker, you've got a lot of real estate on the handle here to play around with. And even for me, it's kind of a 3.5, maybe a 4-finger grip, certainly if your hands are a little bit smaller, but kind of a 3.5-finger grip for me with a really wide plate there, so you have a real solid grip on the knife. In addition to that, this is a sub 2-inch knife, but it's essentially a 4-inch knife because you do have 2 sharpened edges to work with. And 204P stainless steel as well, which if you're not familiar with that, it's essentially the same stuff as M390 and CPM 20CV. So you got a lot of edge retention there, which is doubled, of course, by that double edge. If you're going to have to deal with a sub 2-inch blade, you might as well get the most edge retention you can out of it. And even if you're not using it as a money clip, you've got a nice wide pocket clip there. Keeps things nice and secure. A bunch of different colors can be had, a few different blade finishes as well. Plus, it's an OTF Microtech, so it's a lot of fun to do that as well. All right, that's it for this edition of Knife AQ. If you've got one of your own questions, make sure to leave it in the comments, and maybe we'll get to feature it in one of our future episodes. Meantime, let me know what you thought of my answers here this week. Let me know if you have any other suggestions for the questions we've had. And if you want to get your hands on any of these products, we'll leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next knife if you indeed are going to purchase one of these knives right now. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your questions below. See you next time.